veulent la nouvelle vague, donnons-leur un raz-de-marée.
I was just falling in love with cinema, and you hear about it. But this is the early 80s. Not everything's available, So I went to a screening of Breathless at a campus not too far from where I was living. Didn't fully, again, I was kind of new to cinema. I was like, I liked it, but I didn't feel I understood it that well. And I watched it again a few months later. That's where it kicked in. And that was the first, technically, Nouvelle Vague film I saw. So I was catching up for soon after seeing all the greatest ones. And, I started a film study at some point and started showing them. I think in one spring schedule, I presented 17 Godard films, which is still kind of scratching the surface. But I was making up for lost time a lot in the 80s with the Nouvelle Vague. But I still do. I go back and revisit those films all the time. They're very always kind of inspiring. There's something kind of pure about them. And, they're all so different. The filmmakers it's an interesting genre into itself, the Nouvelle Vague, because it's just a bunch of different filmmakers making different films. It was just an interesting time. Godard had such a complex, lengthy career. It's probably 3 or 4 different careers in there. And, I think a lot of people are partial to the early, let's say, 60 to 68, to maybe Weekend. And then it's like, okay, here we go. Very much more, political, polemical. And he's really always going his own way. You got to admire it. He always followed his own cinematic brain and instincts and artistic impulses. And they took him in some, all kinds of directions. And some are more fun than others. But, I really like his 80s films a lot. That's when I was kind of first falling in love with cinema. I was watching all the new Godard films. I thought they were innovative. His language had kind of matured into like a something else a little bit. So they're all great. There's a lot of Godards. I like them all. Well, when you're doing these kind of historical recreations, it's a challenge. But so it's certainly resemblance. I needed to find people who you could believe, just for people who know these icons, like, okay, that's pretty close. It's something. But beyond that, that's just one little part of it. The real part is just their acting ability, their personalities, how they handle themselves, what they can do. So I got really lucky with, I had great faith in that I would find people who kind of looked just enough like it, I could pull it off. But, find the right personality, the right person who wants to work hard and get with the team. And, we had a great group of young, they were all young French actors with the exception of Zoe Deutsch, who she's the exception on a lot of ways. I knew I wanted her. She was kind of pre-cast because I knew her from years back and just said, oh, you're Seberg, And then she's the American with the professional career, kind of flying in around all these young French actors. So it was very analogous to her character in the movie. But Zoe worked hard. She really worked hard on the French and every little element that was necessary. Got the big haircut, everything you had to do. So I was really inspired by their effort. Everyone worked so hard. We shot film and digital, but the real key there is the lenses. And to achieve that look, the film stocks are not the same as they were then. Things change a little bit, but you can still achieve that look. We were doing a lot of visual effects too to recreate 59 Paris. We had a lot of our production design, usually in the foreground and in backgrounds. You could the whole film was kind of a magic trick. But I had a great time with David Chambil, my director of photography, this young French guy who really was enthusiastic. Raoul Cotard was his favorite camera guy, and we just hit it off. And I felt making this movie, I was like 28 again, making my first film. It was really fun. The film's kind of about that, but with that, you're sitting on some kind of insecurity and lack of confidence through lack of experience. So I still had that beginner's mind, but I actually did have 3 decades of filmmaking. So it was just fun. It didn't have that layer of volatility and insecurity. So I was kind of in the best of both worlds. But it was a lot of fun to kind of get under the hood of another movie and replicate it and use the techniques of that time. And yeah, I was really trying to make an artifact from 1959. Like, we found this film in an attic. It was made around the making of, that was the conceit. I always saw the film as in French, it was just black and white French with English subtitles. That was the film I was making in my mind. I guess because I am more experienced, I wouldn't have even tried this years ago, but I was going, no, film's a visual medium. I'll be able to communicate with everyone, and I'll bring my same working methodologies that I do. It was actually a good test of like, what makes a good performance? And it's not the director's ability to parse exact wording, which I was kind of unable to do, not fully understanding the language. What it was is to bring my same methodology of a lot of rehearsal time, a lot of rewriting of the script, and workshopping it, rehearsing, making them feel comfortable and a part of the team, and really listening to them as we tweaked dialogue and had new ideas. And that wasn't a communication problem because they all spoke English. That's kind of the second language with young people all over now. So that wasn't, we communicated. Every now and then I have a long memo I'd write, and we'd translate that to French just so they got all of it. So I kind of figured, everybody's understanding 80+% of what I'm saying. So that was it. But it was really just making them feel comfortable in their roles, and that's what we did. But when rolling, I did rely for that final nuance. I know exactly what they're saying, and I'm just studying it visually. It's that thing they say when you lose a sense, you grow up hearing, if you're blind, then your hearing is better. That was kind of my case, because I looked at it very visually, and I was like, did he flub a line there? Even in another language, I could tell. It's like, yeah, that wasn't his best thing. Okay, go again. My script supervisor and producer were nearby. I was kind of relying on them, and ultimately my French editor too. It proved to me what gets a good performance. It was what I kind of hoped it was. Like emotionally, I'm kind of working from the place that I felt making my first film. And I say first film, I had made 20 shorts and a Super 8 feature, but I did those alone, really. First time I was working with a crew and a bunch of actors, and people are looking at me for direction. It can be pretty intimidating. It can be a little overwhelming, the degree you have to communicate and foster all these relationships and to manipulate a big group of people to do what you want. That's a personal challenge for sure. So, but it's fun. It's exhilarating when you get a chance to do it, but you don't know what you don't know. So it's pretty precarious. It's pretty volatile. Really just trying to show a community. I mean, these are friends. So that's really the lesson. It's like films kind of grow out of communities, even small ones. A few film freaks get together. That's all it takes. The French New Wave can be happening anywhere. You just have to make it happen for you. Every film's kind of a revolution. That first film is, you have to challenge yourself and not be satisfied with the status quo. If you're going to make a different film, it's okay to make it differently, to your own taste, your own rhythms. As it's kind of comical in the movie that Godard's driving everybody crazy, but there's a lesson there, I think.
D'ailleurs, je pourrais très bien vous laisser tomber, vous et votre film.
Vous commencez à comprendre. À demain.